Up in the dark, down on my knees, I've seen things that you wouldn't believe. I was lost until I found that I'm invincible. Nobody gon' bring me down.
Here we go.
I'm invincible. Nobody gon' bring me down. That I'm invincible. Nobody gon' bring me down.
So before I even start, I want to say that I don't know that I think Avatar should have 3 phases, but it does, so here we go. What I really, really love about Avatar, outside of, I think the arena is great, and the moveset, and everything like that, is Elden Ring is a big fucking game, and it has a lot of fucking bosses. And a lot of those bosses get reused. And Avatar feels like something we've seen before, and I love this move. I love the visual of it. It's so fucking awesome. Avatar feels like something we've seen before, maybe sort of like a callback to like the Erdtree avatars with some of the moves, but it's incredibly unique and different and visually interesting, and it's so fresh, and I have a lot of fun. Now Romina. So Romina reminds me of a Dark Souls 2 boss. To be honest, a lot of Elden Ring reminds me of Dark Souls 2 sometimes, but I immediately fell in love with Romina. The moveset, the visuals of the moveset, I think are great. The rot build-up is interesting, but it doesn't feel like it builds up as fast as it does in the vanilla game. Oddly, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I always have fun fighting Romina. I do wish that there maybe was more lore build-up to her. Maybe a little bit so we understood more. But other than that, I have a ton of fun fighting Romina. So I remember when Shadow of the Erdtree, the trailer first dropped and we saw Midra's cutscene. It's so horrific and grotesque, and I loved it. And when I started playing Shadow of the Erdtree, I found that Midra was far more difficult than I would have anticipated. I didn't expect that. But what I really, really love about Midra, and this is going to sound odd, is the entire experience of the map. Going through the Abyssal Woods and dealing with Elden Rings like Winter Lanterns, and then navigating your way up to Midra. It creates this incredibly horrific nightmare experience. And then the boss itself is so good and so visually appealing. Okay, somebody out there is going to tell me I'm wrong. That Mog ought to be higher. If this was just Mog's Phase 1, I could agree. But Elden Ring, for me, sometimes has this problem of like Phase 2 and dialing it up. You know what I mean? I love Mog's Phase 1. I love elements of Mog's Phase 2. But when I fight Mog, there are times, more often than not, when I really just don't want to deal with his Phase 2. And I feel like I ought to want to love it. But the AoEs, the blood loss, the fire, the heavy hits, like it's all a lot to navigate. And sometimes I just find myself getting frustrated with it. But it's hard to deny that Mog is an exceptional boss. So the lore is there, the atmosphere, like all of these things are great with Mog. It's just sometimes I don't have fun fighting his Phase 2. And I want to have fun. Maybe in time, I don't know, my opinion will change. It happens all the fucking time. But for right now, I mean, I still think Mog is a great boss. I still love Mog. It's just his Phase 2, I don't know. It brings him down just a little bit for me, but that's okay. Okay, so somebody's going to have a problem with this. I like Meteor. I don't care. It's my list. For my sensibilities, Meteor is great. The arena is sparse but really chilling. There's this cosmic horror vibe that I love. The lore implications of Meteor and sort of calling back into the vanilla game, I think is great. It's almost like they took ROM and the one reborn and smashed them together and said, now add fingers. And that move right there, I think, is fucking nasty and horrifying, and I love it. I don't know. For me, personally, as subjective as all this shit is, Meteor just sort of just came out swinging and appealing to me on a variety of levels that I personally love. So, I don't know. I like Meteor. I continue to like Meteor. I don't think that's going to change. It's just the way it is. I really like Meteor. So Godric is this high on the list for a kind of a specific reason. I think Godric is perfectly placed in Elden Ring. So FromSoft, they make great bosses, but they also have to place these great bosses at specific moments. Godric, I think, for lore purposes, is perfectly placed. The challenge is perfectly placed. Everything about Godric is just perfect for me, where he is in the game. He does not have to be your first shard bearer, but if he is, I think that it was a great decision to have him where he is, and I always have fun with Godric, always. So Morgott was one of my favorite bosses for the longest time, and obviously still, in my top 10. And I think he's perfectly placed where he is to sort of mark the point of the end game, right? My opinion on Fire Giant hasn't changed. I still fucking hate Fire Giant. But after Morgott, the difficulty of the game really dials up a little bit. And I think Morgott is sort of like the perfect boss to sort of separate the two. I think the moveset is fast but fair. He hits hard but not overly hard. He's not overly punishing. It just feels perfectly balanced to me. And Morgott, I mean, if we're not talking about like Shadow of the Erdtree or anything like that, is one of my favorite bosses in the vanilla game. So Renala is a boss that I love, and she sort of meets all the criteria that I look at, like at the highest level, except for difficulty. Renala is not in any way difficult, but the atmosphere, the music, the lore, the design, the moveset, like it's all there, and it's all at the highest level. I love Renala visually. I have a lot of fun fighting her. If I have any complaints about Renala, it's when she summons another enemy to fight with her. It's a bit jarring here. It's a bit jarring to me, and it throws off my rhythm, and sometimes the lock-on gets all fucked up. That gets a bit annoying sometimes, but other than that, Renala is just incredible to me, and I always have fun with Renala. Now, we pair that with the next boss. R'Lana is everything that Renala was, but also brings the difficulty. I think Renala brings that challenge that is incredible. And the comparison there has been made with Pontiff Suliban from Dark Souls 3, and I think that's fair, but also sort of brings the rhythm and the speed of like Freed or Melania, maybe the Dancer, and I think brings that difficulty that I really wanted from Renala. And I have so much fun. And this move right here is just, oh my god, look at it. Visually, it's so striking. Yeah, R'Lana brings that challenge that I love. And some people have said that she's not overly difficult, and that's fine. I mean, it's all subjective. I have a lot of fun dancing with R'Lana and paring her down. So that's why R'Lana is this high on the list. Radahn, I can't think of anything negative to say. Radahn, for the longest time, was my favorite boss in Elden Ring. My opinions have changed over time, but I think Radahn, on every level, is amazing. From the lore. Now, it's interesting that Radahn was always considered to be like maybe the most challenging boss, or one of the most challenging bosses. I don't know why. I could not tell you why, but I've never really found Radahn difficult. I've just found Radahn incredibly fun, and the lore is incredible, and I think Radahn probably has the best cutscenes and moments in all of Elden Ring. Radahn is a boss that if I could fight Radahn just like 100 fucking times in the day, I would. If they ever introduce like a boss gauntlet, or like being able to fight Remembrance bosses over and over again, like in Sekiro, I could spend a whole fucking day just fighting Radahn. So I love Radahn. Absolutely used to be my favorite boss, but things have changed over time. So Estelle is sort of my moon presence of Elden Ring. I don't know that a lot of people would agree with Estelle being this high. And to be fair, if I was making or trying to make some sort of objective ranking, which I don't know why the fuck I would ever do that, I don't know that Estelle would be this high, but it's not. It's my personal subjective ranking. And Estelle sort of hits all of these highs and appeals to me in a variety of ways that I just love. The cosmic horror is there. The atmosphere is so incredible. Maybe the most atmospheric fight in all of Elden Ring for me. I think the moveset is great. I don't think that Estelle is overly punishing. Lots of great attack windows. And it's a great fight to just watch. The moveset looks so gorgeous. And again, it's just sort of my moon presence of Elden Ring. Something that I love, that appeals to my sensibilities and the type of the horror and look that I love. So Estelle has to be in my number 5. I love Estelle. So Souls has a long history of dragon bosses going all the way back to Demon Souls of varying quality throughout. And I honestly didn't think that they would ever be able to create a dragon boss as good as or better than Midir, but I'll be fucked if they didn't do it twice in Elden Ring. And coming into Bale's fight, like, I love his design in that it tells a story. He's missing a leg, he looks real fucked up, like he's been through something. And that visual presentation that communicates something without exposition. I mean, obviously it's what Souls does very well, and I think they do it exceptionally well with Bale. And I expected this fight to be much more difficult than it was. I almost expected it to be like overtuned and overly difficult, and it wasn't. It was incredibly fair. Now, Bale's Phase 2 does bring an exceptional amount of stuff. There's a lot going on, but it's not like Consort Radon to me. Like, everything feels right. Like, it's not distracting. There's that level of like chaos and almost desperation from him that it all just works for me. And like I said, I think that I look forward to seeing if they're able to do anything in the future that is on the same level as these dragon bosses. Speaking of dragon bosses, now I'll say this. I think Placidus X has, across all Souls games, across every Souls game, has the best intro, like the best cutscene of any boss in any Souls game. It's so intimidating. It's so imposing. It's so visually striking. The arena is amazing. I think that the run-up to Placidus X is a bit too obscure if I have any complaints. But as far as Placidus X goes, to me, everything works. Everything is at a top level. From design to moveset to atmosphere to lore to music, everything is there. Now, there's the opportunity for them there to make Placidus X overly difficult. And I've heard players say that they really struggle, but that, to me, that wasn't the case. I think Placidus X is perfectly balanced, the perfect challenge, and everything works. And it hits such a high with these dragon bosses. And it's perfection as far as Souls games go. Now, I had made a comment when Shadow of the Erdtree came out that Mesmer was my favorite boss in all of Elden Ring and a top 5 for me across all the Souls games. After playing through the DLC many, many times now, my opinion has changed a little bit. Mesmer is easily a top 10 and competes very, very strongly with my favorite boss in Elden Ring. The lore here, it's visually striking. It's amazing. To me, it calls back a little bit of Bloodborne and the Shadows, and there's a tragedy that adds a level of emotion to Mesmer with the lore, and his moveset is incredible to watch, and it's also very, very fun to navigate. Yet Mesmer, to me, similar to Placidus X and maybe all the bosses in this top 5, just across the board hits everything at the highest possible level, and it, like I said, competes with my number 1 for possibly being my favorite. But my number 1 favorite boss in all of Elden Ring, Malenia. So here's the story. When Elden Ring first came out, I told someone that Malenia was my least favorite thing in Elden Ring. I thought she was overtuned. I did not think she was fun. And I really, really did not like fighting her. But as time went on, I realized the reason I didn't like her is because of my decisions. The way that I was fighting her was not right. And once I sort of adapted and realized, okay, I'm going to learn her parry timings, and I'm really going to learn her rhythm. Similar in a way to Sword Saint, where it's like, okay, I'm going to learn how to deflect you now, and I'm going to move with you. Once I learned how to move with Malenia and really figure her out, she has become the most fun part of Elden Ring for me, and a boss design that I love. Now, Waterfowl here, you can make the case that it's too much. And I would have agreed with you a long time ago. Over time, I mean, whether or not you use freezing pods or you get under her and sort of turn her to shift your AI, or you move in and out of it like I do here in a second in phase 2, you can deal with it, and it's not as threatening once you sort of figure that out. Now, I have seen the argument that you ought not have to go through the work to figure it out that way, and that's fine. That's a fair criticism. For me, that's just not the case. So I had made a comment earlier across a couple of bosses that Elden Ring has this issue with phase 2s, with the phase 2, where they dial it up exponentially to the point to where it's just a bit overtuned and there's too much. I do not find that to be the case with Malenia. I think her phase 2 is perfect. It keeps some of the same moves. It adds additional follow-up attacks to where you sort of have to learn them again a little bit. She's still parryable, which I like. And right here, you move in, you move out. I get hit a little bit, but that's fine. To me, her phase 2 is as perfect as her phase 1. It's a perfect sort of crescendo of aggression and speed that works for me in a way that almost sort of like tells a story of her motivation. And everything with Malenia, from the lore to the music to the arena, everything is at the highest level that it can possibly be. And to me, I think puts her on the list of some of the greatest Souls bosses that we've ever had. And certainly my favorite boss in all of Elden Ring, Remembrance or not. I love Malenia. So that's it. That's my ranking of all the Remembrance bosses plus Baal and Elden Ring. You know, it's been really fun getting to put this together and talk about something that I love, that I'm passionate about, that brings a lot of joy in my life. It's been fun. I would be really curious to know what you love. What are your top 5 bosses in all of Souls? I tell you, I'm really looking forward to the remake of Silent Hill 2. It's got nothing to do with this, but there it is. So I hope that you are spending time with the things that you love, and thank you for hanging out.